Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee with Casey, where I'm coming to you live from a cruise ship out in the middle of off the coast of Alaska. Here it's kind of tough to get acclimated to the time. I mean, the sun doesn't go down until about midnight and it comes up at 4 o'clock in the morning. So you get a little whacked out on time, but the scenery is beautiful. It's great. Today, we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about market conditions, and we're also going to talk about the inverted buyer pools. In other words, how you find them. It's funny. We're out here fishing. We're looking for salmon. We can see them jumping all over the place. We can't seem to get any salmon. So as we said in that last Coffee with Casey, there's a big difference between fishing and catching. So when in real estate, we need to be sure that we're sitting on the buyer pool and we know that we can catch fish. And it's just a matter of getting the biggest, fattest contract we can, not if we're going to sell. So I'm going to go over some stats about market conditions, where we are. I'm going to talk about that inverted buyer pool. And if we can get around to it, I'll tell you some of the beautiful things about coming to Alaska. This has really been an eye-opening trip. I'm not a cruise guy, never been on a cruise, don't want to go on a cruise. Didn't think anything. I don't know. I just don't think I'm a cruise guy. But it's beautiful, and the land has been great, and the people are wonderful. So let's get on with the show. Let's talk about what's going on. I'm not going to switch you over to my computer because that's a much better view than looking at a bunch of stats. But we did this show so we can keep an eye on the market conditions and see when is the inventory coming back, when is the market coming back, how are we doing, are things selling? So here's the latest update. In the last 30 days, the inventory of the homes still is very low. It's off 25 to 30% over the 5-year average. So that's the continuing trend of this year. It hasn't stopped or slowed down. It's funny. When you say we haven't slowed down, we've gone from, 40% year to date to 30% for the last 30 days. So it's kind of like saying, well, it's the difference between breaking your 2 arms and 2 legs and just 2 arms and 1 leg. So I guess, in an instance, maybe it's getting better, but that means we only broke 2 arms and 1 leg, which is still not exactly great. So the statistics in this is all the way through. Vienna's down 25%, Fairfax down 27%, Loudoun County's inventory is down 37%. This is the last 30 days. And Prince William County is down 28%. So there's really not much on the market, which is shocking when you think about this statistic. 40% of the homes in the last 30 days, over $1 million in Vienna, withdrew unsold. So, it is shocking because it's one thing to miss when there's a lot of inventory and it's very competitive and maybe your house just wasn't up to speed, but 40% withdrawal rate in a market where there's very little inventory is shameful. To be honest with you, it's just shameful. So, it's just like the other day, and I'm going to get to this inverted buyer pool here in a minute. I'm going to show you exactly why this is all happening. But, back to the market conditions. 37-40% for the year to date, and that's on the 5-year average. We just don't have any inventory. It's pretty simple. Nobody wants to leave a 2.5% loan to go to a 6% loan on a move-up house. So that whole move-up market is gone. There's no move-up market right now. It is really move-out market and move-in. So move-out means I'm selling the old family home. I'm going to be where the kids are. They're out in Denver. That's where I'm going to. Or I just got a job opportunity, or house is too big. I got to get out of here. So remember, death, divorce, downsizing. And then the fourth has been the desperation, where people have just lost their job. They're in an industry in a recession or a depression, which I would say real estate, clearly when you're down 40%, is in a hard recession. It's funny, they say that if you lose your job, you're in a recession, or if your neighbor loses their job, you're in a recession. If you lose your job, it's a depression. So it depends on whose goggles you're wearing at the time. But, it's the whole real estate industry. Settlements are down, sales are down. That means settlement and title business is off. Nobody's refinancing. The whole mortgage industry is off. So people that are in those industries are clearly suffering through all of this, right? So they're in the brunt of it. So if we look at the one indicator that says out of 10 homes on the market, how many are under contract? Remember, anything over 60 is a strong buyer's market. Anything, under 40 is a buyer's market, right? So 71% of the homes in Vienna are under contract, which is shocking when, again, 40% of the homes last month withdrew unsold. So McLean, they're at 76, very good for McLean. Usually they're in the 40s and 50s. So they're doing real strong right now. Willisford, 67%. Haymarket, 100% of the homes over $750,000 are under contract. That's pretty strong. That's 15 homes and 0 are active. That's pretty strong. Centerville, 77%. And then, you get to Oakton at 50%. Fairfax is 60. And then Arlington and Western Loudoun County are pulling up the rear. Western Loudoun County is 43%, and so is Arlington. So I can see some homes not selling in Arlington, or in Western Loudoun. Maybe it's not the demand, maybe it's oversupply, but I can see that. I certainly can't see it in Vienna or some of the stronger markets, why somebody would withdraw. But let me show you. Let's go over here. All right. What you're looking at is an inverted buyer pools. Okay. So what we're looking here is, this is Class A. It's funny. I was going to ask Steve Padgett, the guy I'm traveling with. He's a commercial guy. And he said, Class A sells. Class A always sells. So I thought about it and I said, Class A does sell, and Class A means up in here. This is what does Class A mean in real estate? Class A means you got Pennsylvania Fieldstone coming up your front door. You got a nice house, great presentation, good curb appeal, nice yard. You open up the door, it's got correct paint, hardware, and lighting fixtures. It's got the nice kitchen. It's got an updated bathroom. So the higher you get on those updates, the more buyers want that Class A premium house, right? So there are not a lot of them. I would say that of what we sell, 20% max would be that, oh my gosh, house that is just a Class A house that's going to sell. Now, what you do is you've got very few of those houses and you have a maximum buyer pool, right? That's the inverted buyer pool. So in houses like that, we get 10, 15, 20 contracts because there's very few and there's very many buyers. There's a lot of buyers looking for it, very few inventory. So here's the sellers. There's the Class A. The sellers are in blue. The buyers are in green. Okay. Now you get down here to customary, which is customary which is average. So customary B buyers, customary B sellers. That's a good buyer pool into itself. Now, when we put one of these homes on the market, we're going to have 3 or 4 contracts. No problem. We've done, 28 or 30 of them this year. Average days on market is 4 or 5. So they don't last very long on the market. Okay. Down here where they need work, it's a very little buyer pool, small buyer pool. There's not a lot of homes that are in that condition. So I would say they kind of equal each other out, but these are what we call bottom feeders. These are, if I'm going to buy a home that's not in premium condition, I want a price that is cut their knees out, put a mask on, steal that damn house. So this is a tough market. What we try and do is make sure that all buyers are in the buyer pool up here, which is at least a customary class, not dated, not down in the Class C, at least the Class B, on our way to Class A. Okay, now we're not going to renovate kitchens, we're not going to renovate bathrooms, but we will do touches that make it look like it's been renovated. But our rule of thumb is, if we're going to fix your house up, we're going to try and move it up. We're going to make sure that we get $7 return for every $1 we invest. So, we try and move it up where the buyer pools are bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, this doesn't matter whether it's a $500,000 house or a $2 million house. That is the pool and that is the market for every price range. Doesn't matter. 2 million, 1 million, 500, 300, that's your buyer pool. The most buyers are looking for the best properties, right? Now, when you have all these people in here fighting over this property, that value gets shot up. And we call that the premium. Now, I did a whole video on how you get a premium when you're selling your house. So, you can consult that video on how you sell your home at a premium. But if we can be in here and get a huge buyer pool where we're 6, 7 contracts, they're going to pump that thing way over the line of where it should be. So that's the goal. Push the house up in here, get the contract to shoot up as high as you possibly can by grabbing the biggest buyer pool. Now, here's the problem. Here's why 40% of the houses do not sell. That's your buyer pool. Most sellers overprice their house. Now, I gave you an example last week. I went into and I priced a house for a gentleman and his wife, and the home was worth $1.4 million. No matter how I cut it up, $1.4 million. Maybe if we get a more, 145. He wanted $2 million. He wanted $2 million for the house. Why? Because it was worth 1.85 to $2 million. Felt that he had a nice backyard, which he did. $2 million. That's a new house. That's a new house in the same square footage. So what we talked last week was how artificial intelligence in the real estate world is screwing sellers left and right because they're giving them false expectations and false hope. So, is that one of the 40 percenters? Yeah, that's one of the 40%. They're not going to sell. So you can forget about it. All right. So the problem that you're seeing here is your sellers have pulled the houses above. Let me tell you something. This is like fishing. Let's say you're on a pier, and the water is 30 feet below you, and there's tons of fish, blues everywhere. All you gotta do is just hit the water and you can catch fish, right? It's like putting the line in the water, but it's 20 feet down, right? You put the thing 20 feet over the pier, but the water is 30% or 30 feet low. So you're not even in the water. So you're fishing, but you're not in the water. It doesn't matter how good your bait is, unless you get in the water where the fish, and no fish can jump 10 feet. Can't do it. Saw a whale jump out of the water 12 times yesterday. Yeah, a whale can get out of the water 10 feet, but a fish can't jump out of the water. So if you're going to fish, you got to get your bait in the water. So in this case, is this a great house? Is this a premium house? Sure it is. But the buyer pool for that house, that age, that size, that price range, the buyer pool is down here. So you've missed it, right? They've missed the buyer pool. So, so what's the problem? The problem that we want to focus on, and why we don't want to, how we want to be not the 40%, is now I'm on a cruise ship. I get people walking in all the time. Like I said, cruise ships are like being with about 2,000 of the ants, right? The ants expired. So you're with either the ants or you're with their parents. So it's an interesting group. But it's fun because we go to all the protocols and get to see it. But I'm gonna bring my buddy up here, Steve Padgett. Yeah, you are. Come on, man. I got a seat for you right here. You can block out. Now, the reason why I asked Steve to come out and talk to us today is because I can give you the defining characteristics of the Class A houses. In other words, what that inventory is.
Good morning, Casey.
Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Padgett. Now, Steve manages.
Am I one of the ants?
You're one of the ants. No, you're the uncle. Tracy's the ant.
Good morning, everybody.
Expired.
Yeah.
So Steve manages a huge portfolio for a family in DC. And you guys do retail?
We do all the classes, commercial, multifamily, retail, and a little industrial.
Right. So you kind of have a broad brush of how the market is and the thing. Now, you said something to me in the before we getting on the plane. You said Class A sells. And I think it was 5 minutes later, getting on the plane, that I had this thing done and sent over to you. Because Class A, in my definition, is the houses that, have really been updated, upgraded kitchens, upgraded bathrooms. I mean, everything's been done in that house. That is a Class A premium house, regardless of the price range. How would you define Class A in your guys' world?
Well, it's similar in the commercial.
Yeah, talk up a little bit, because we're
on a cruise.
We're on a cruise.
We've got a lot of people going by.
We got a bunch of people making food in the background.
Well, I think the commercial space is similar in many regards. The pandemic had made a change in the marketplace, quite frankly, and a lot of landlords are getting space and trying to entice people back to the office.
Yeah.
And part of the reason they're doing, and what they're doing to get those employees back, is to add a rich amenity base on some of the spaces. So that is
Add a what to the space?
Amenities.
Oh, amenities.
Yeah. So where there's gyms, there's rooftop pools, there's shared conference space. Those are the types of things that are attracting people back to the office.
Right.
And so that Class A space, those are things that are defining Class A.
Right.
And so those are things that landlords feel are necessary to get people back into the office.
So everybody, again, I mean, when we're looking at setting a house up for sale, we're talking paint, hardware, and lighting fixtures and things like that. And so you guys have to do the exact same thing in order to entice people back into town.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you something. So San Francisco, there are people giving back properties, right? Define take one of those deals where they're just giving back shopping centers. How does that whole transaction, how's that working? How does that work?
Well,
I mean, they put up a down payment, they have no debt. I mean, they have debt, but it's not personally guaranteed by anybody.
if it's a non-recourse property, many owners are not, especially as their loans roll,
right,
are not seeing the ability to financially make that work.
Make it work.
Yeah.
So they're just giving it back.
So well, and in some cases that is true. Yeah.
How much money are they walking away from? How much?
Well, it depends on the size of the property, but it can be millions.
It's millions, right?
Yeah.
Does DC have the same potential of having this kind of crime problems and all of that stuff that we're seeing in San Francisco?
Well, it's funny. The mayor is trying to get people back into DC, and yes, I think there is a different vibe. But I think that then post pandemic, there's a different vibe and walking downtown and being downtown.
Yeah.
And I think that the mayor is recognizing that, and particularly as it relates to retail. You need people back in the office in order to support the retail space.
Right. Well, and that's what she's really pushing for, everybody getting back downtown.
And she certainly is. And I think the government will, in some cases, mandate people coming back to the office.
Right.
And I think some of the other companies, even tech companies, are going to see a need to do that.
Right. Get them back into town.
Get them back in.
Well,
and I mean, people like to collaborate, and people need to be with other people. And so while it's a different space currently, I think it's going to be a slow walk back, and people are going to start getting back to the office.
It's going to take some time,
but it's going to take some time.
Yeah. So your retail, I mean, I don't know how we'd go out to dinner. I didn't want to.
Quite a background you have there.
I didn't. Well, that's quite a background you have there. I didn't. We didn't talk about it that much because I know you do a lot of retail, and I know once you shut down shops and people aren't out, how did a lot of these retailers make it through? This pandemic, or did they not?
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
Some of the retail survived as a result of getting PPP money or SVOG money, or basically trying to keep their people intact through government programs. And
so you guys were living on that, banking on that, them getting money, in other words, cover their rent.
Yeah. So some of the PPP money kept employees there, but there's some retail that has not recovered. But again, I think people realize that they need to be with people, they need the experiences, and hospitality, and that is coming back full force. I'm not so sure about some of the business hospitality, business travel.
Yeah.
That is again not quite where it was.
if you look at your portfolio that you have and you can break them down into class A, class B, and class C, where's your 90% of your problems coming in from? In other words, issues with either tenants or apartments or whatever. Is it in the class C section, class B section, or class A section?
You know,
I always try and cut down the
that-
problem. Let me just be honest with you. The houses we take, I always tell everybody the best listing you have is the one you don't take, because man, it can be a nightmare, and it saps the blood out of you. 90% of your effort is on, 5% of the properties. Do you have that same issue, and can you isolate where the problems are?
It's a little bit different that, the multifamily market is recovered significantly,
Yeah.
and regardless of class and
Apartments.
apartments.
Yeah.
And the commercial side of the business, even working with some of the nationals, there's still some issues there.
Yeah, you're arm wrestling with Macy's,
And-
aren't you?
Yeah, we'll keep that out.
But again, let's say the problems might be on whatever properties are not the high value
Well,
class A properties.
People tend to gravitate to luxury, and in fact, many on the commercial office space, people are giving larger space back, taking smaller, richer, amenitized space,
Right.
and making that same budgetary commitment, but just in less space with higher amenities.
Right.
So
They want better
yeah,
stuff.
They do, and so that's kind of where we see things.
Which really on our side is, people are buying houses, but they want nicer house, but they may be a little farther outside. They may go to Loudoun County and like I was just showing, Haymarket, 100% under contract.
I think what happened during the pandemic is that people realized how important their homes are.
Yeah.
Quite frankly.
Yeah.
And they decided that they needed to improve their homes, and so you'll see the Home Depots and Lowe's of the world. They were busy and
booming.
packed
Yeah.
and booming during the pandemic, and people want to entertain at home. They want space at home.
Yeah.
They've realized that, and now, unfortunately, for some of us in the commercial office space, they want to work from home.
Right.
So,
well,
these are things that are good indicators for the residential.
And I think our gain is your loss, because I see before it was commercial and residential, and now you're turning residential into commercial.
Yeah.
Because if your office, if or whatever is in your house, you need more money on the house. It lets you expand your budget a little bit and get that big house because you'll be working there. Yeah, and entertaining. And the other reason is a lot of people, they just aren't selling because they don't want to move from a 2.5% mortgage to a 6% mortgage. So they sit where they are, and that means I'm either going to fix it up or I'm going to sell it.
Yeah.
What is it? They say love it or list it or whatever. So most people are just saying, I'm going to have to love it. I'm going to have to fix it up and go that way.
Yeah. Now, I don't know how long this broadcast lasts, but my blackjack tutorial is coming up here momentarily. So
All right, you're done.
I'm gonna sign off here.
I know we
get
got
to my
you.
next meeting.
Go get the blackjack and you're good to go. You've done it.
I've got a lot of activity scheduled this morning.
Well, your contract did say,
enjoy.
20-minute interview. You're killing me, man.
Enjoy.
All right, buddy. I will say this about this cruise stuff. Again, I was apprehensive, didn't want to do it, but a tour in Alaska is incredible. I mean, we have I've got 5 minutes, so I'm just gonna talk about this. So the salmon fishing, a little disappointing, but we had 100 salmon jump out of the water that you could see. We had an orca whale coming up to the boat that was probably within 200 feet of a boat. Now, when you're in a small boat and you see an orca dorsal fin coming up, it can be a little unnerving. It can introduce you to nature really quick. The depth of the water, I think, is one of the things that shocked me. We were 100 feet off the shore, and the depth of the water was 450 feet. That's why we saw whales, we saw humpback whales, we saw orca, we saw tons of salmon jumping, and we were only 100 feet off the shore. Then one day we went to hell. I've seen a humpback. I've seen them, stick their tail up and everybody, oh, look, there's a tail. So the captain sees down the way, big, huge splashes. Some whales having a party down there. So he takes off and we go, I'm telling you, we followed this whale for 40 minutes, 50 minutes, and he breached the water, fully breached the water. And Julie, I sent her a picture of it 12 times. So you're sitting there and he goes 1, 2, down goes the tail. And I mean, you wait 4 minutes, he goes down 100 feet and he comes flying back up out of the water, full body breach. I mean, all the way to the tail. And of course, it's fairly spectacular. So what was a boring escapade turned into be pretty exciting. We also did dog sledding, which is really cool. Look, I'm from Vienna, Virginia. I'm kind of a city boy. I'm not a country guy. But I really get it with the environmentalists here. So we would go out on 2x2s or 4x4s. I don't know what the hell you call them, all the way through, and we're up in the mountains. And these guys are giving us tutorials on the plants and what you can eat and what you can't eat, and identifying the ferns and what people do with the plants and how they make medicinal stuff with it. I mean, I get it. I get the environmental stuff and really loving it and all that. But I do think, we've got a world to operate. We got business to run and we got to take care of it. I agree. But, when you come up here to Alaska, it's really spectacular. The waters we were looking at between the two islands was 12,000, 13,000 feet. 12 to 13,000 feet looking out there in that water. So, I mean, that's Titanic water. So Alaska is a beautiful place. You have to visit it. You have to see it. I think these cruise lines, every time you'd wake up in the morning, you can't see it right now, but we would have snow-capped mountains everywhere we went all week. Great. I highly recommend it. Just highly recommend it. If you haven't done it, it's definitely worth getting out to see. So you've been listening to Coffee with Casey. There's been a live from an Alaska cruise somewhere in Alaska. I'm not sure. Next day or so. But you've been listening to Coffee with Casey. We come to you every Thursday at 10:30, no matter where we are. I'd love some coffee. Thank you. No matter where we are. And hopefully give you a little bit more enlightenment on the real estate market, what the market conditions are, and the strategies that help you. When you look at that in triangle, you need to be in the buyer pool. House. Luckily, all our houses have sold. Most of them have all sold within the first weekend. So we've been very fortunate. Good luck in the real estate market. If you need any help, my name is Casey Samson. You can reach me at 703-508-2535. And I want to just say one thing. I really, really, really want to thank all of the sellers that chose our team, because, we compete for every listing. There are the top agents in Northern Virginia that go after the really Class A stuff, the Class A homes. So we compete every day for these top listings, and enough sellers have chosen us that we're the #1 team in the state of Virginia. So, I would like to say thanks to all the sellers that trust us with selling their house. Hopefully we've done them well. I guess considering that 30 out of 30 are selling as fast as they are and all at a premium, it's worked out. So if you need any help, you can give me a call, 703-508-2535, or catch me at Casey at CaseySamson.com. Thanks for listening. We'll see you when I get back to the States.